Good Wednesday morning to you. As we think about this text from Hebrews and we kind of prepare ourselves for the weekend here to come for worship, I want to talk a little bit about this by faith idea. Yesterday, I asked you to think about your faith story. By faith, how is God at work? By faith, what is God doing? How are you living your life in response to your faithfulness? Well, the caveat to that question is as you think about it, as you think about your statement of faith, how you would categorize your faith, how you would describe it, my hope is that you see two things. First of all, to say by faith, it calls you out of apathy. No one can say by faith, I stayed the course and I didn't do anything and I didn't really go anywhere and God didn't experience anything within me. Faith calls us into action. And if you look at this text in Hebrew, if you look at Hebrews 11, each and every character that's mentioned is called into action. Abel, an acceptable sacrifice, right? He received approval, but he had an action of giving a sacrifice before God. Enoch, right? It was, he attested before he was taken away that he had pleased God. Noah, warned by God of what was going to happen, he went into action of building the ark. Abraham obeyed. He stayed in the land. He did what he was told. He received power of procreation, right? So there's all of these acts that are happening. So when you think about your by faith story, when you think about what your by faith narrative would look like, first of all, I hope you feel like it's calling you into action. Because that's important. God is always putting us to work. God is always putting us to use. And if you feel like you're listening to this and you're saying, well, God hasn't done anything, God hasn't called me to do anything, then maybe it's time to listen a little bit more thoroughly, because I guarantee God is saying something to you. God is pushing you, nudging you, getting you to do something that maybe you've never done or have never experienced, or maybe you've been thinking, wow, something within me is changing. Here's the second thing. What we do in faith often is because of what we hope for. The beautiful thing about this text is that God promises us hope. That hope and faith are interconnected. They cannot be separate. They're tandem with one another. So when we act in our faith, it is out of hope that we act. When Abraham followed God's promise, it was with the hope that God was telling the truth, that a great nation would be made, that procreation would exist and he would have a son. If you think about Jacob, right? He existed and worshiped and had his family and fathered Joseph all out of hopefulness of what God was doing. Joseph maintained, being sold into slavery by his brothers because they didn't like the special treatment he was receiving. Being betrayed by Pharaoh's wife after she tries to seduce him and he turns away. Being imprisoned, right? Telling dreams, right? And finally being able to live fully into what God intended. Everything in that narrative is because Joseph remained hopeful of what God was doing. Moses is, adopted as a baby and then kills a man, right, out of rage because of how his people are being treated. But it is only by hope that he is able to follow God's lead. It's not even a call he really wants, right? He even argues before God, don't call me to lead the people out of Egypt into the Exodus, into the freedom, because I have a stutter. And so Aaron gets pulled into that. But it's out of hope that they are called into action. Every time you read in chapter 11, by faith, you see two things. Called into action, deeply grounded in hope. And as you think about your life, as you think about how God's at work in your life, as you think about what God is doing in your life, I'm hoping that you see both of these. I'm hoping that you see God is calling you into action, And that could be something grand, that could be something really small. It's the microcosm and the macrocosm, right? It's that idea of, God's work is amazing. So God's calling you into action, and God is filling you with the hope that you need to persevere until that is made known. Those are the two aspects of this story, this reminder of when we tell our story by faith. How is God calling you? What is God filling you with to sustain you as he is at work? As you think about this midweek, as you think about this Wednesday, I challenge you to consider those two things in reflection to what you thought about yesterday. By faith, what is God doing? How is God calling you into action? And what is the hope God is filling you with to sustain you until it is made known? Tomorrow, we're going to finish up our Hebrews text as we prepare for Sunday. I hope you're having a good week, and I am looking forward to tomorrow. Take care.